I, N21, met Liv, F23, at work in November of 2023, and right from the start, there was something special between us. We quickly started seeing each other, and although we agreed it would be casual, we were spending almost all our time together, from work to staying at my place 4 to 5 nights a week. By May, we had become incredibly close. There was no fighting or arguing, and even though our relationship was open, she remained faithful while I wasn't. This wasn't an issue because we both agreed on the arrangement. She treated me like a king, almost like a wife, and it was something I'd never experienced before. Both of us had struggled with drug issues in the past, but Liz were far more serious and long-lasting. There were a few nights when she'd go out with friends, get extremely drunk, and call me to come over. She'd pass out in her car, not recognize me, and get aggressive. This happened 3 or 4 times between November and May, but I didn't fully grasp how serious the problem was. I'd just help her to bed and have a talk the next morning about how dangerous it was to drink that much and drive. This will be important later. Liv's family had its own struggles. Mental health, alcoholism, and drug problems ran deep, and they treated her terribly. She often shared stories with me, and it was clear she didn't trust anyone because of how her family had treated her. Her ex had been a drug dealer who drugged her without her consent and put her in terrible situations. When she tried to leave that life, her father shut her down and essentially disowned her, saying he didn't love her. By May, Liv realized she couldn't stay at home anymore because living under her bipolar mother's roof was holding her back. I suggested she move to a ski resort where I'd worked before. It was 6 hours away, but I knew she could find work and housing easily, allowing her to escape without financial worries. At that point, I had no plans to move back to the resort. In May, she told me she loved me and I felt the same. It was something I'd never felt before. However, with the distance ahead of us, we agreed to stay in an open relationship, even though she wanted to be exclusive. I thought it would make things easier if it didn't work out. Liv moved to the resort in June, and she drove down every other weekend to visit me for a few days. In June, I started introducing her to my family and considering the idea of moving to the resort myself for the winter season. But by the end of the month, problems began. I caught her lying about texting a guy, let's call him Gary. I told her there was no need to lie. We were in an open relationship. But if she kept lying, we wouldn't have anything left. I assumed they had hooked up, but she swore nothing happened. A week later, I told her I didn't want to be in an open relationship anymore and that I was planning to move to the resort. After that, she started getting secretive. She'd stay out until 3 or 4 in the morning, not respond to me until the next day, and give me vague excuses. I knew she wasn't at Gary's house because I had her location, but it was still suspicious. This happened several times between July and September. During this period, she often complained about how lonely she felt and how the town wasn't making her happy, even though she had moved there to work on herself and figure out what she wanted in life. Instead, she was hanging out with toxic people and drinking excessively, sometimes 5 to 7 days a week. I did my best to support her and get advice, but she started pulling away. One week, we were supposed to meet halfway between our towns, but she didn't update me on her plans the night before, so I canceled. This upset her, and it ended up being 3 weeks before we saw each other again. Around that time, I got my job back at the ski resort, and we were excited about spending the winter together. We saw each other after that long stretch and had a great time, but we knew it'd be another 3 weeks before we'd meet again because I had a surf trip planned. While I was away, our same issues continued. She was distant, and I didn't know what to do. When I got back, we had a serious conversation, laying everything out about how things needed to change. I felt better after that talk, but the next night, I brought up how off she'd been. That's when she confessed she had hooked up with Gary once during the period when we were open. She showed me proof of when it happened and claimed she blocked him afterward. Her excuse for not telling me sooner was that I had told her, "Don't let me find out," when we first discussed being open. That broke my trust, and after that, things weren't the same. I told her that we couldn't be together until I could trust her again. Essentially, it would be like before, an open relationship, but she knew she couldn't be with anyone else, or I'd walk away. I realize that's toxic, But after she betrayed me and begged for forgiveness, it was the only way I could move forward. While she was still visiting, things felt weird and tense. Even my family noticed her anxiety. I tried to get more answers from her, but all she told me was that she came clean because a friend of Gary's referred to her as the girl who hooked up with Gary. It's a small ski town, and word spreads fast. I'd always told her I'd find out the truth one way or another. She left to go back to the ski town, but I was moving there in just 3 days. I felt lost, unsure of what to believe. The day before my move, I called her and gave her one last chance to come clean, telling her that if there was anything else I was going to find out, she had to tell me now. That's when she admitted that she had hooked up with Gary while I was on my trip, and she had cheated on me. At that point, I had no trust left and was completely done. I ended things while she continued to beg for forgiveness. After moving to the ski town, I told her we needed to exchange each other's things. We met up and talked. She explained that she had no contact with Gary while we were together and actively avoided him. But one night, after her roommate left her alone at the bar, Gary wouldn't leave her alone. She said she kept telling him no all night, that she loved me and wanted to make it work. But he persisted, bringing up how she had already cheated. She got drunk, told him no one last time before leaving the bar, but he followed her outside. She says she doesn't remember much after that, just flashes. Eventually, she gave in and used him to walk her home. They had no further contact after that. She told me it meant nothing and that it never would have happened if she hadn't been drunk. Liv admitted she has a serious alcohol problem and plans to get professional help. Therapy, a sponsor, no romantic relationships, and complete abstinence from alcohol to build a healthier life. She's committed to working on herself, whether I forgive her or not. She wants to heal from her traumas, including her tendency to lie, which she's been self-medicating for over 7 years with substances. Liv also explained that she didn't trust me because she doesn't trust anyone, thanks to her past. She acknowledged that cheating was wrong, but she did it because she was convinced I was cheating while I was out of the country and that I'd never find out. Now, she says she knows how much I care and wants to do whatever it takes to rebuild trust and prove she's capable of changing. She told me I'm the only person who's shown her that real trust and connection are possible. To reinforce how toxic her family is, she mentioned that when she called her mom for advice, her mom laughed and yelled at her, saying it was foolish to believe in monogamous relationships. Her parents had a messy divorce due to cheating, and she told me stories of her dad making her hide his infidelity and how he was abusive. If this were anyone else I've dated, I wouldn't hesitate to walk away. But I've never felt this kind of connection with someone before. I don't believe Liv is a bad person. She never showed any toxic traits before we went long distance, and our only issues seemed to revolve around her drinking. We've always gotten along great, and she's helped me become who I am today. Coming from a family with addiction issues myself, I understand how people can do regrettable things when they're caught in a downward spiral. I'd love to hear from others with similar experiences, and I want everyone to be brutally honest with me. Am I being manipulated, or should I consider giving her another chance once she's gone through recovery and is ready?